All right. So, Jamie, what'd you think of that video of Sandra Lee?
Awesome.
Yeah. You know, it just talks about it from the client side and the whole experience about how we just take care of everything from start to finish. So, you're probably wondering what all this is. This is the evolution of frames. There's only 6 different ways that you can build a window. And I tell my clients, when you come from a place of common sense, it'll just come together for you. So, but first, let me ask you a question. In a window, what do you think is more important, the frame or the glass?
That's the glass.
You know what? Most people say the glass because it takes up the biggest part of the window, but it's actually the frame. The frame is the structural component of the window. So if you don't have a good frame, then no matter what's inside of it, if this isn't structural, it's not going to support the glass. It's just like you can remodel your kitchen or your bathroom, but if the walls of your house aren't structurally sound and the roof comes in, then it doesn't matter how good looking your kitchen is or your bathroom is. So it's actually the frame. Do you understand? Okay. Right? You get that the frame is a structural component of the window. So let's just keep that in mind when we're going through all of this stuff.
No worries.
So like I said, there's only 6 different ways to make a window in the world, right? Since the dawn of time, since they were putting a hole in a wall and putting glass in it so they could look through it, they were using this. This is old growth wood, right?
Heavy.
It's very, very dense. It's very, very strong. It's loaded with tannins and acids. Termites can't get into it, and that's why you see homes that built in the 20s and 30s and 40s. Their sills are just rock solid because it's very, very dense. That wood doesn't exist anymore. We've cut it all down. The only place that wood exists is in protected forests. What exists today is this. This is new growth wood. Feel it? Yeah, it's very light.
Very light.
Yeah, it's grown on tree farms, 5 to 7 years, heavily watered, fertilized, get to the size that they need, and they cut it down. It's like a buffet for termites. It's so soft. It requires a lot of maintenance. You have to constantly strip it and paint it and seal it, or it's going to just rot out on you. It expands and contracts with moisture. If you were to find a company to give you a 1-year warranty on a wood window, you'd be very, very fortunate. It's just the nature of the product. Is that something that you would be interested in? Were you thinking about wood?
No, I want low maintenance, really. That's not what I want.
Well, then, you certainly don't want that. And on top of it, wood windows run between like $2,000 to $3,000 an opening. They're expensive. Wow. I know. So no wood. Well, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they developed this. This is aluminum, right? The good thing about aluminum is that it was a strong material. So you have a small frame, small profile, and it can hold the glass. And we're only talking about single pane glass back then anyway. But the bad thing about aluminum is it's a highly conductive material. It's completely energy inefficient. They make frying pans out of aluminum. What the temperature outside is the temperature inside. That's why you always get that in the morning, like when we walked around your house, and you have aluminum now, and I pointed out the mold that was in the tracks because the condensation that occurs between it's cold outside and you warm the house inside, so you have this condensation in here that just that water sits there and creates mold over time. And another thing, especially with dual pane glass today, so aluminum, like when it's hot outside, the whole frame is hot. And what happens is it can melt the seals of the insulated glass unit, the IG unit, and then what happens there is the gas will fall out, and then air, which carries moisture, gets in there and can fog it up. It's called glass failure. Is this something that you'd be interested in?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, you have it now, and
I don't want to go back there again, really.
Right. The prices on this stuff range anywhere from $900 to $1,500 an opening. So the next thing they developed was this. This is aluminum clad. This is what they were trying to get the benefits of the wood and the benefits of the aluminum, right? Put them together because wood is a good insulator, but it's terrible with the elements. And the aluminum is more durable with the elements, except when you get close to the beach, which we are, and you get the pitting and the corroding of the aluminum. But it's just like when you take a Coke can out of the refrigerator and you set it out on your counter, what happens to it?
It sweats.
It does. It's called condensation. And so when you have the house that's warm and it's cold outside, what happens is you get condensation inside of here that you don't see, that's dripping onto this new growth wood, which is very, very soft and doesn't react well with moisture. And so what happens is it starts to rot from the inside out. And you don't see it until it's basically falling apart. I have this right here. You can see this is actually a Pella window. There's a couple of class action lawsuits. Marvin and Pella make this window, and there's a couple of class action lawsuits going on. They're not bad companies. It's just a poor design. They're trying to marry two materials that just don't go together. Was this something that you were considering?
I didn't even know about it, but I wouldn't be considering it now, no.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's just in theory, it's nice, but it just doesn't work. The price point on these things, they're expensive. They run anywhere from like $1,800 to $2,200 an opening, depending on the size. So the next thing is this. I don't spend too much time on it. It's fiberglass. It only makes up about 2% of the market. Couple of issues with the fiberglass. One is it's toxic, you know, but it has to be painted. So there's maintenance there, and fiberglass is flexible. They make fishing poles out of it, boat hulls, right? And it's designed to flex and go bounce back into shape. So when the boat hits the wave, that hull actually flexes and bounces back into shape. But it can't be welded. It has to be glued and screwed. And so you have these corners of a material that flexes, and we're in Southern California. It moves around a bit here. We have house settling, stuff like this. So you can have the seals in the corners break, and you have water intrusion there.
I see.
Yeah. So, and like I said, if you don't constantly maintain it, have you ever seen a old boat that's been sitting out in the sun, the deck of it, it's all spider cracked?
Oh yeah.
Right, it's deteriorating. That's what happens with this stuff. Is this something that you were even considering?
Again, I didn't even know it was available, and no, that's not of interest to me.
Right. Okay. And you know, the price point on the fiberglass, they range in, you know, from $1,000 to $1,500 an opening.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not cheap. I mean, windows in general aren't cheap. So the next on the list, tell me what this is.
Seems like a plastic.
It is.
Very flimsy.
Yeah. It is plastic, but the industry doesn't like to use that term. They use the term vinyl because plastic sounds like plastic. Yeah, it's polyvinyl chloride, PVC is what it is. And so they pulled the vinyl out of the PVC, polyvinyl chloride. It's a plastic window. It's an oil-based product. And so there are a few problems with this product. One is it's pretty flexible material, right? You can bend it with your fingers. The other is that it expands and contracts. It actually expands and contracts 7 times more than the glass. So when you have a frame around the glass unit, the IG unit, the insulated glass unit, and it's expanding and contracting like this, what happens is it puts pressure on the unit and then it releases pressure. Puts pressure on it, releases it, so it can break the seals. And what happens when it breaks the seals is the gas leaks out, air gets in, and you have glass failure again. It fogs up.
Oh, okay.
Right? They actually know that it's going to happen. So it's not if, but when it fails. So they developed this. These are glazing beads. It's called planned obsolescence, right? So they know that the window is going to fail at some point in time. So they designed the window so you can take it apart and replace the IG unit. The problem is this has been twisting and bowing and expanding and contracting, so it's out of shape. So you don't get a tight fit in here if you can find someone to replace the glass anyway. There's not much of a market for it. And not to be doomsday about it, but burglars also know about this because you can pop these glazing beads off and take the glass out and get into the house without even opening the window, which is not setting off the alarm, right? So you have a material that's moving around a lot and it's not very structural. As we talked about, you know, it's the structure, the frame is the structure of the window, which is the important part. So let me ask you something. If I put this window in your opening and it's expanding and contracting, what do you think is going to win, the wall or the window?
The wall.
The wall, that's right. And so what happens, it can't expand outward, it's expanding inward on the glass and causing that glass failure. A few other things about it is vinyl windows are a drain and contain system. What happens is when it rains and water gets in here, it drains into the channels and it's supposed to drain out the weep holes right here. So the problem is the channels are lower than the weep holes. And so the water sits in here and there's no moisture, and there's no air that can get in there and dry it out. So you have just stagnant water just sitting there. And what happens with stagnant water?
Gets moldy.
It grows mold, right? So you can walk around your neighborhood and you'll see windows, and you see right underneath the weep holes, you see some black stuff. And most people think it's just dirty water coming out of there. It's actually mold that's oozing out of the weep holes. So yeah, there are a few inherent problems with this window. Were you considering putting vinyl?
I was actually, yes. It
Yeah.
was, but maybe not so much, no.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that sell it because the markup on it is so great. I mean, they're very inexpensive, as you can tell.
Yeah.
To make 80% of all vinyl windows come from one company, Royal Extruders, out of Canada. So what they do is they make the extrusions, they ship them to the companies, and they piece them together and put their name on them. But it's all the same stuff. You can have 7 different vinyl companies come in here. They're all selling the same thing. Plastic is plastic is plastic. There's no way around it. You can call it what you want. Virgin vinyl, non-plasticized virgin vinyl. I've heard that before, but it's a plastic window. And the price on this stuff is all over the map. I mean, you've seen these ads, 10 vinyl windows for $49.95, and Sears is selling the same 10 windows for 18 grand. So it's a crazy market. It's kind of a race to the bottom. And the funny thing, well, I don't know if it's funny, it's interesting that Andersen actually developed the first vinyl window in 1959. They spent $25 million in 1959 dollars. That's about $210 million in today's dollars, going into the plastic business, setting up shop. 3 years later, took a look at it and scrapped the entire project because they saw what it was doing when they put it out in the sun. It's not a suitable material on its own because it's an oil-based product and the UV rays. It literally starts to off-gas the minute you set it out there. So they went back to the drawing board. For the next 30 years, they developed this. This is Fibrex.
Wow, it's heavy.
Yeah, it's 40% reclaimed wood fiber, 60% polymers extruded together under heat and pressure. It's 80% wood by weight. It's impervious to moisture. It's impervious to termites. It doesn't expand and contract. It doesn't pit, corrode, chip, or peel. It is the long-term solution to your window problem. What do you think of that material?
Looks sweet. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. It's actually the only material out of all of these that was specifically designed to be a window frame. Andersen developed it and designed it to be a window frame. All these other things are modifications to be window frames.
I see.
Yeah. So you notice how I said that this had glazing beads on it?
Uh-huh.
Because that's planned obsolescence, because they know it's not if, but when. This is a direct set glass. So we build the frame around the insulated glass unit. There's no glazing beads here. We set it in there because we know it's not going to fail. There's no expanding contraction. It's a very stable material that we put the IG unit in. And then in a minute, I'll get into how we build the glass, which is pretty impressive. Is this the kind of material that you could see in your home?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very nice window.
Awesome. Well, if you like the frame, let me show you the window.
Okay, perfect.
Cool? All right.